Anyone can be confident with a full head of hair, but a confident, bold woman, there's your diamond in the rough.
Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Kamo Moth, and this is the story behind my big chop.
Tell us a relationship with your hair growing up as a little girl.
Geez, I don't really think I have like an extraordinary story when it comes to a relationship with my hair as a little girl, on the basis that I grew up like any other normal little girl. Your hair has to be long, it has to be did, you know. I remember just always wanting to look like, do you remember Dark and Lovely, the relaxer? They would have like those two little girls with the ponies. And that's really how I grew up, where my mom was constantly styling my hair. I mean, I kept the same hairdresser till my adult years, which is Mama Sophie. And I was a relaxer girl. So the hair had to be neat, it had to be tidy, it had to be in pigtails, ponytails, you name it. There's also a hairstyle that I used to do, and I used to call it the Karen White. Yes, the singer, she used to do that whole, AKA Julia Mutene's signature style on Generations. And so that's how I grew up, really. But I remember that a lot of times people would say that I looked like a little Black American girl, which I thought was great. In hindsight, now I feel like, why must I belong to America? We have pretty girls in South Africa. And so that's sort of just my relationship, that my hair was always did and it was fancy and it was part of who I was.
Your hair has always been long, thick, relaxed. How did that make you feel around other young girls who did not have the same texture, especially because you're compared to an American girl? How did that make you feel around other girls whose textures were different? And the moment they got steam, and yours is still flowing and luxurious and in good condition?
When I was a little kid, I don't think I was as switched on as I am in my adult years. I never really looked at the next girl and what her hair situation was like. But what I do distinctively remember is everybody that I went to school with was sort of like rocking the same hair as me. So everybody had long, relaxed hair. The likes of Zanda, who I played netball with. And I also had like a lot of colored friends and a lot of white friends, and they've always had hair. And the thing that I did notice was that my cousins did not have the hair that I had. But it wasn't like a thing that was spoken about at home where, like, Gamu, you have hair, this one doesn't have hair. Nobody spoke about it. But I do feel like because I had hair, I was like a trophy to a lot of people. And a lot of times when people would describe me, even if they weren't from like my family, they would always be like, Gamu, which one? Wamuriri. And that's how I've pretty much gone through life, being described as Gamu Wamuriri. And to a certain degree, I think it might have gotten to my head. And that's why I never checked to see if there was a girl who didn't have, for a lack of a better word, the privilege of having long, relaxed, luscious hair. There's a story I have, though. As much as my hair was always relaxed and always did, one of the reasons I did not want to swim at all was because, like any Black girl, you get into that pool, you're coming out with a luta continua. You're out here rocking an afro. It's like you never even relaxed your hair. And that's not a look that I wanted. I didn't want coarse, non-straight hair because I felt that it didn't make me look pretty. It was a bit unrefined.
You had your hair for a very long time. When did you decide to make the big chop, and why?
I think I had my big chop, and I had it in phases because it was hair for me, and I think it has to do with the story of Samson. I always looked at it as also part of my strength, my extension, not just from a beauty point of view, that's where my beauty lied, but I strongly believed that I would not have power to stand and speak in rooms and attack the things that I needed to attack that came my way, the challenges that women face on a daily basis, if I did not have this crown, because my crown was my throne, you know. So after, I think I was 30 when I decided to phase out my hair. It started off with a razor cut because it's still hair, you know. But also, I knew what my face would look like because I'd had razor wigs before. And then from there, it went to like shorter. And I then ended up with a brush cut. Like I looked like my male cousin. And the only way not to feel that I looked like my male cousin was to then have it colored or dyed rather lilac, which was pretty and it's a girl color. So it made sense. But I had all of that removed because I had gone through a lot. I had never cut my hair before. If you know me, you know that you've never seen me without hair. But I had gone through so much in the 30 years that I had been on this planet that I simply needed to escape it. And the only way I knew how was through my hair, because like I said, my hair was my armor. And I felt like it had absorbed so much of the trauma, and I could literally feel every single bad thing that has happened to me in my scalp, creeping, laying on my back, on my neck. And I wanted it off. And I had been fighting with someone at a radio station where I worked. They had victimized me and bullied me. And so when I won that specific challenge in my life, I wanted to come out a different woman, a woman that knew I could stand in the gap even for matters that didn't necessarily affect me directly. And part of it was letting go of the girl Kamo, because the hair was a representation of Kamo before the 30s. And when you get into the 30s, a lot of people are like dirty 30s. For me, it became a defining 30s moment, and the hair was a big part of it.
Would you cut your hair again?
Absolutely not. Something that I will never, ever do again. No questions asked. I will never cut my hair again.
Why?
I did not enjoy looking at myself. I have big eyes, very defined cheekbones, BJ lips. And these are all things that goes with the hair. When I have big hair, it looks perfect. But when I didn't have the hair, it was overwhelming for me to look at myself in the mirror. It affected my confidence insofar as feeling sexy. These are all features that I believe have not been celebrated. It's features that the world used to label us apes or lesser than. We never made the covers with those features, and if we did, it was to ridicule us. Hashtag Sarah Bartman. So years and years of being bombarded with that narrative, and then to finally stare at it, it was almost like I had looked at myself with white eyes, and I didn't like it. The second layer to that, I just found it hard to style. You know, like I'm not a chakrahan. I don't have flowy dresses. Kumbaya, my lord. It's just not my aesthetic. On top of that, I'm also not edgy. So it would mean I would have to change a lot of my wardrobe. And I don't want to change my wardrobe because right now my wardrobe's is comfortable for me. It speaks to my body and my body shape, and it's an extension of me. Fashion is also an extension of a person, just as much as hair is an extension of you, whatever style you choose. And so I would never cut my hair again, simply on the basis that it's just not me.
How long did that season last for? were bald or had a brush cut? And what did it teach you about yourself?
I had the short hair for, I only started growing it back 2 years later. So from like 2023, I started to grow my hair back. One of the things I would say that having this bold brush cut, whatever you want to call it, what it taught me was maybe I'm not as confident as I think I am. And maybe I'm not as confident as people perceive me. I'm not the lion that people perceive me to be. And that I'm more like, a dolphin. It taught me more about how I've been misplaced in the world and how I've carried the misplacement as my identity, and it's not really who I am. But it also taught me that I needed the hair to continue to hide, and not hide from people, but hide from the vulnerability that from an EQ point of view, I'm simply not ready for. So the biggest lesson was exactly that. I am not as tough shits as I appear or as what people think. And maybe I need to continue to hide a little longer behind that hair because I got shit to do, okay? I ain't got time to be vulnerable. There are rooms I still need to get into and convince people that I'm a power queen. And I have not learned how to do that without this gift of how a lion has their mare? For me, that's what my hair is. I am not a lioness prowling in the jungle. I am the damn lion. I'm not ready to be the lioness yet. And I'm very comfortable with that.
Beautiful. Today, where are you when it comes to your hair? Your attitude towards the link between hair and beauty?
Today, what I know for a fact is I cannot do the bold and I cannot do the natural hair because I also had a short stint where I was like an Afro queen. And even there, the swag. Because Afro queens, they have like an aesthetic. But I appreciated that I've gone through the phase, that I can live to say I was once bold. I was once an Afro queen, but I'm back to my relaxed hair. I recently relaxed my hair again, and I've never experienced greater joy in my life. Okay, my braids are lasting longer. My edges are staying down for longer. And in the industry that I work in, that's what I need. I need durability, things that are going to last. And insofar as standards of beauty, well, they can go fuck themselves.
In closing, what is your message to the little girl, to you, to yes, Hoa? What is the message to the little girl about hair and beauty?
Message to the little Kamo. My babe, look at you. You know how I call myself Kamo Moth? How I arrived to that is by taking, obviously Kamo is half of my name, but Moth is half of my surname. But we all know moths. They come to the light. They always come search for the light. And so that's what I want to say to the little girl. Always search for the light. No matter where you are, how lost you get, who says what, come high or hell water, even if the light is shining through the smallest crack there is, look for the light and you will never be lost.